The galaxy had forgotten the humans. 3,000 years was a long time. Empires rose and fell. Stars were born and died. And the small blue planet called Earth became nothing more than a story that parents told their children when they wanted to scare them. "Behave," they would say, "or the humans will come for you." But no one really believed in humans anymore. They were like ghosts, like monsters from old tales. The records said they had died long ago, burned away in a war that happened before most species learned to walk upright. The Concord of 12 ruled the galaxy now. 12 great species, united under one government. They controlled 10,000 worlds. They had ships that could cross the stars in days. They had weapons that could crack planets open like eggs. And they had peace. Boring, comfortable peace. High Arbiter Veth sat in her chamber on the capital world and looked out at the endless city below. She was old, even by her species standards. Her scales had turned gray with age, and her eyes had grown tired from reading too many reports. Nothing ever changed anymore. Nothing ever surprised her until today. A young officer rushed into her chamber without permission. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. He held a datapad like it might explode in his fingers. "High Arbiter," he said, "we have a situation." Veth did not move. She had heard those words 1,000 times. A trade dispute. A border conflict. A politician caught stealing money. Always small things. Always boring things. "What is it?" she asked. "Cat 4, the officer said. "The mining colony on the edge of Concord space. They detected a ship. Ships come and go. That is what ships do. Not like this one." The officer stepped forward and placed the datapad on her desk. The ship came from the outer veil. Now Veth moved. She turned slowly, her old bones cracking as she did. The outer veil was a region of empty space beyond the edge of the galaxy. No one went there. No one came from there. It was dead space, filled with radiation and darkness. Any ship that entered would be destroyed. "That is impossible," Veth said. "I know, but we have visual confirmation." She picked up the datapad and looked at the image on the screen. The ship was unlike anything she had ever seen. It was smooth and black, shaped like a teardrop falling through water. There were no visible weapons, no engines, no markings. It looked less like a machine and more like something alive. "The colony sent their defense fleet to intercept," the officer continued. 12 warships. The best we had in that sector. And? The officer swallowed hard. The unknown ship disabled all of them in 4 minutes. It did not fire a single weapon. Our ships just stopped working. Engines dead. Weapons offline. Life support barely functioning. The crews are alive, but stranded. Veth felt something cold move through her chest. It was a feeling she had not experienced in decades. It was fear. How? She asked. How did it disable our ships without weapons? We do not know. Our scientists are analyzing the data now. But there is more. Tell me. The ship sent a message. Just one. It was broadcast on every frequency, in a language we did not recognize. It took our historians 6 hours to translate it. Veth waited. The officer's hands were shaking worse now. The language was human, he said. The word hung in the air like smoke. Veth felt her heart skip a beat. Both of them. Human, she repeated. That is not possible. The humans died 3,000 years ago. We made sure of it. The translation is confirmed, High Arbiter. The message was in Old Terran. The language humans spoke before the fall. What did it say? The officer closed his eyes, like he could not bear to speak the words. Then he opened them again and met her gaze. It said, "We remember what you did. We're coming home." Beth sat down heavily in her chair. Her mind raced through old memories, old stories, old fears. She remembered what her grandmother had told her when she was young. She remembered the history that the Concorde had tried so hard to bury. The humans had been different from other species. They were not the strongest or the fastest or the smartest. They were small and fragile, with soft skin and short lives. But they had something that no other species possessed. They could adapt. They could survive anything. They could take any environment, any challenge, any enemy, and find a way to overcome it. And they were persistent. When a human wanted something, they never stopped, never gave up, never forgot. The ancient Concorde had recognized the threat before the humans even reached the stars. They saw what humanity would become if given time. So they struck first. They burned Earth. They hunted the survivors. They thought they had killed them all, but the humans had escaped. A small fleet, carrying the last of their species, had fled into the outer veil. The Concorde had assumed they died in the radiation storms. They had celebrated their victory. Now, 3,000 years later, the celebration was over. "Send word to all Concorde worlds," Beth said. Her voice was steady, but inside she was screaming. "Maximum alert. All military forces are to mobilize immediately." "What should I tell them, High Arbiter? What should I say is coming?" Beth looked at the image of the black ship one more time. It was so small, so simple, so perfectly designed for its purpose. "Tell them the humans have returned," she said. "Tell them to prepare for war." Far away, on the edge of known space, Captain Una stood on the bridge of the Silent Dawn and watched the disabled Concorde ships drift past her window. They looked like dead fish floating in dark water. She was young for a captain, only 32 years old. But she had earned her position through skill and courage. Her crew trusted her with their lives. "The message has been sent," said Lieutenant Jisoo, her second in command. He was younger than her by 5 years, with a serious face and kind eyes. "The entire Concorde will know we are here within days." "Good," Una said. "Let them know. Let them remember." "Captain, are you sure about this? We have been hidden for so long. Safe. We could have stayed hidden forever." Una turned to look at him. "Could you stay hidden, Jisoo? Could you hide forever, knowing what they did to our ancestors? Knowing that they walk on our homeworld like it belongs to them?" Jisoo was quiet for a moment. "No," he finally said. "I could not. Neither can I, neither can any of us." The Silent Dawn turned slowly and began its journey back to the hidden fleet. Behind it, the Concorde ships remained frozen in space, their crews watching helplessly as the impossible vessel disappeared into the darkness. In the hours that followed, the message spread across the galaxy. It passed from world to world, species to species. Some laughed and called it a trick. Some panicked and fled to bunkers. Some pulled out old books and read the stories of the humans with new eyes. But everyone, from the highest leader to the lowest worker, felt the same thing in their hearts. Fear. The myth was real. The warning was true. The nightmare had returned, and nothing would ever be the same again. The hidden fleet waited in the darkness beyond the outer veil. It was not one fleet. It was a civilization. 3,000 years of growth, hidden from the galaxy that had tried to destroy them. Ships the size of small moons. Stations that wrapped around dead stars. Factories that built weapons the Concorde could not imagine. And at the center of it all, aboard the flagship called Memory of Earth, stood Admiral Taiho. He was 60 years old. His hair had turned white, and his face was marked with scars from battles fought in the cold spaces between stars. He had dedicated his entire life to one goal: revenge. When Captain Una's ship docked with the flagship, Taiho was waiting for her at the airlock. He did not smile. He never smiled. "Your report," he said. Yuna walked beside him as they moved through the corridors of the massive ship. Crew members stepped aside and saluted as they passed. Everyone knew the Admiral. Everyone respected him. Some feared him. "The Concorde's technology has not changed in 1,000 years, Yuna said. "Their weapons are slow. Their shields are weak. Their ships are built for comfort, not combat. They have forgotten how to fight." "They forgot because they had no one to fight," Taiho said. "They killed everyone who could challenge them. They thought they killed us too. They were wrong." "Yes, they were." They entered the command center. A vast room filled with screens and holograms showing every corner of human space. Dr. Hana was already there, standing before a display of Earth. She was the lead scientist of Project Resurrection, the secret program that had cataloged every crime the Concorde committed against humanity. She was small and quiet, with gentle eyes that hid a sharp mind. "Admiral," she said. "Captain, I have completed the analysis of the Concorde's response to our message." "Show me," Taiho said. The display changed. It showed Concorde space, with hundreds of red dots moving toward the edge. "They are mobilizing their entire military," Hana said. 400 warships are gathering at the outer veil. They plan to blockade the passage and prevent us from entering their space. 400 ships, Yuna said. "That is their entire fleet." "They're scared," Taiho said. "Good. They should be." Lieutenant Jisoo stepped forward. He had been quiet since they arrived, watching and listening. Now he spoke. "Admiral, if I may ask, what is our plan?" "The Concorde has 400 ships. We have maybe 50 that can fight." Taiho looked at the young officer with cold eyes. "We do not need 50. We need 7. 7 ships against 400? "Yes." Jisoo looked at Yuna, hoping she would say something. She did not. She had seen what human ships could do. She knew what 3,000 years of advancement meant. "Prepare the return fleet," Taiho said. 7 vessels. The fastest and the strongest. I will lead them myself. "Admiral," Hana said quietly, "are you sure this is wise? If we lose those ships, we lose our best technology. We lose years of work. We will not lose them. But if we do..." Taiho turned to face her. His eyes were like stones, hard and gray. "Doctor, my grandmother was 15 years old when she fled Earth. She watched her parents burn in the fires the Concorde started. She spent the rest of her life in a cold ship, eating recycled food, breathing recycled air, dreaming of a home she would never see again. My mother was born in space and died in space without ever touching real ground. I was born knowing that my species was hunted, hated, and forgotten." He pointed at the image of Earth on the display. "I will not die without seeing my homeworld. I will not leave this existence without making them pay for what they took from us. 7 ships is enough. 7 ships is all I need." No one argued with him after that. 3 days later, the return fleet launched. 7 black vessels moving through the darkness like shadows. They crossed the outer veil without difficulty. The radiation that had killed ancient ships meant nothing to them now. When they emerged into Concorde space, the enemy fleet was waiting. 400 warships arranged in a perfect wall. Their weapons were charged. Their shields were raised. They outnumbered the humans 57 to 1. The Concorde commander, a proud warrior named Rin, broadcast a message to the approaching ships. "Unknown vessels, you are ordered to stop and surrender. You are outnumbered and outgunned. If you do not comply, you will be destroyed." Taiho smiled for the first time in years. "This is Admiral Taiho of the Human Return Fleet," he replied. "We do not stop. We do not surrender. We remember what you did to our world. We remember what you did to our people. And we have come to collect what is owed." You cannot fight us, Rin said. We have 400 ships. You have 400 targets. The battle began. The Concorde ships fired first. Thousands of missiles and energy beams filled the space between the fleets. It was enough firepower to crack a planet. It should have been enough to destroy anything. The human ships did not dodge. They did not shoot back. They simply kept moving forward. The weapons hit them, and nothing happened. The missiles exploded against shields that did not flicker. The energy beams scattered like light on water. The human ships emerged from the storm of fire without a single scratch. Commander Rin felt his blood turn cold. All ships, concentrate fire on the lead vessel, he ordered. Everything we have. They tried. They poured every weapon they had at Taiho's flagship. The space around it turned white with explosions. For a moment, Rin dared to hope. Then the white faded and the human ship was still there. Still moving. Still coming. The humans struck back. Yuna watched from the silent dawn as the return fleet tore through the Concorde formation. They did not use missiles or beams. They used something else. Something that reached inside the enemy ships and turned their systems against them. Engines overloaded. Reactors failed. Life support shut down and then started again. Keeping the crews alive but helpless. It was not a battle. It was a lesson. In 11 minutes, it was over. 400 Concorde warships drifted in space, dead and dark. Their crews were alive inside, trapped in metal coffins, waiting for rescue that might never come. 0 human casualties. Admiral Taiho stood on his bridge and watched the destruction. He felt nothing. No joy. No satisfaction. Only a cold emptiness that had lived inside him for 60 years. Admiral, a crew member said, we have confirmation. The path to Earth is clear. Taiho nodded slowly. Set course for the Sol system, he said. It is time to go home. Far away, High Arbiter Veth received the news in her chamber. Her hands trembled as she read the report. 400 ships gone. Her greatest fleet destroyed in minutes. The humans had lost nothing. She thought about running. She thought about hiding. She thought about surrendering. But she knew it would not matter. The humans had waited 3,000 years. They would not stop now. They would not show mercy. The nightmare was no longer coming. The nightmare was here. The Sol system was quiet when the return fleet arrived. Captain Yuna stood at the window of the silent dawn and watched as the human homeworld came into view. Earth, the blue planet, the place where everything had started, 3,000 years and 1,000,000 light years away from where she was born. She had seen pictures. Every human had. They were passed down from generation to generation like sacred objects. Old photographs of green forests and blue oceans. Cities that touched the clouds. Mountains covered in white snow. But the pictures had not prepared her for the real thing. Earth was beautiful. More beautiful than any world she had ever seen. The ocean sparkled like jewels. The clouds moved across the surface in slow, gentle patterns. The continents were covered in endless green, and none of it belonged to humans anymore. The planet has been terraformed, Dr. Hana said quietly, standing beside Yuna. Our scans show it was done about 800 years ago. The atmosphere has been modified. The plant life has been replaced. Even the animals are different now. Who lives there? Yuna asked. A species called the Vreth. They were seeded here by the Concorde as a client species. A reward for their loyalty. They number about 6 billion now. 6 billion. Yuna felt the number like a weight on her chest. 6 billion innocent beings, living on the world that should have been hers. They do not know, Hana continued. Our intelligence suggests the Vreth have no idea that another species lived here before them. The Concorde erased all traces of humanity. To the Vreth, Earth has always been their home. Admiral Taiho's voice came through the communication system. He was aboard his flagship, orbiting the planet like a predator circling its prey. All senior officers, report to the flagship immediately. We need to discuss our next actions. The meeting took place in Taiho's war room. The walls were covered with screens showing every part of Earth's surface. Maps, population centers, military installations. The Admiral had been preparing for this moment for decades. The situation is simple, Taiho said. Earth belongs to us. It was taken from us by force. We have every right to take it back. The Vreth are innocent, Yuna said. They did not choose to be placed here. They did not participate in the war against us. They are living on our graves. That does not make them guilty. Taiho's eyes narrowed. Captain, I did not bring us across 3,000 years of darkness to show mercy to the people sleeping in our beds. Then what did you bring us back for? Lieutenant Jisoo asked. The young officer's voice was calm, but there was something hard beneath it. Revenge? Murder? Genocide? The room went quiet. Everyone knew those were dangerous words to speak to the Admiral. Be careful, Lieutenant, Taiho said softly. I am being careful. I am thinking about what we will become if we do this. Our ancestors fled Earth to survive. They suffered for 3,000 years so that we could live. Is this how we honor their sacrifice? By becoming the same monsters that tried to destroy us? Taiho did not answer. His face was like stone. Doctor, Anna spoke into the silence. There may be another option. I have been studying the Concorde's archives. There is a facility beneath Earth's surface. It is called the Vault. The records suggest it contains genetic material from every species the Concorde has ever conquered. Why would they keep such a thing? Yuna asked. I do not know. But if the Vault exists, it might give us leverage. It might contain information the Concorde does not want revealed. Taiho considered this. Can you find it? I believe so. But I would need to go to the surface. Then go. Take Captain Yuna and a small team. Find this vault. Learn what secrets the Concorde has buried in our homeworld. Yuna nodded and turned to leave. But Taiho's voice stopped her at the door. Captain, remember why we are here. Remember what they did. Do not let your sympathy for the Vreth cloud your judgment. I will remember, Yuna said. But I will also remember who we are supposed to be. The shuttle landed in what had once been Korea. Yuna did not know this from any map or record. She knew it because something inside her recognized the land. The shape of the mountains, the curve of the rivers, the way the trees bent in the wind. Her blood remembered this place, even though her eyes had never seen it. The team moved through a forest that had grown over the ruins of an ancient city. Vreth villages dotted the landscape, small and peaceful. The inhabitants watched the strange visitors with curious eyes but did not approach. They are farmers, Jisoo said, observing a group of Vreth working in a field. Simple people. They have no idea what is happening in orbit above them. They will know soon enough, said one of the soldiers, his voice bitter. When the Admiral decides what to do with them. Yuna said nothing. She kept walking, following Hana's scanner toward the vault's location. They found it beneath the roots of an ancient tree. A door made of metal that should not have survived 3,000 years. But it had. It was waiting for them. Hana worked on the lock while the others stood guard. After an hour, the door opened with a sound like a sign. Inside was darkness. And then light. The vault was enormous. Rows and rows of containers stretched into the distance, each one glowing with soft blue light. Each one containing the genetic material of a species that no longer existed. Hana moved through the rows, reading the labels with growing horror on her face. These are all extinct species, she whispered. All of them. The Concorde wiped them out and kept their genetic codes like Like trophies. How many? Yuna asked. Hundreds. Maybe thousands. This is not just a storage facility. This is evidence. Evidence of systematic extinction. Jisoo found a terminal and began accessing the records. What he found made him step back like he had been struck. Captain, you need to see this. Yuna walked over and looked at the screen. It showed a file marked with a human symbol. Inside were records of the war against humanity. But these records were different from the official history. The Concorde had not attacked humans because they were aggressive or dangerous. They had attacked humans because they were afraid. Afraid of what humans would become. The records showed projections. Mathematical models of human development. They showed that within a few thousand years, humans would become the dominant species in the galaxy. Not through war or conquest, but through adaptation. Through persistence. Through sheer stubborn refusal to give up. The Concorde had committed genocide to prevent a future that scared them. They killed billions of people because of what might happen, Jisoo said. Because of a prediction. Yuna felt something break inside her. Not rage. Something deeper. Sadness. A grief so vast it had no bottom. She activated her communicator. Admiral Taiho, we found the vault. We found the truth. There was a long pause before Taiho responded. What truth? They killed us because they were afraid of our potential. They saw what we could become and they tried to stop it before it happened. Another pause. When Taiho spoke again, his voice was colder than space itself. Then they were right to fear us. Seal the area. Tell no one what you found. This changes everything. Yuna looked around the vault at the ghosts of 1,000 murdered species. She thought about the Vreth farmers above, innocent and unaware. She thought about Admiral Taiho, orbiting like a dark moon, and she wondered if humanity had spent 3,000 years becoming better than their enemies. Or just stronger. The answer scared her more than anything she had found in the vault. Dr. Hannah spent 3 days in the vault. She barely slept. She barely ate. She moved through the endless rows of containers like a ghost, reading files and watching recordings that had been hidden for 3,000 years. When she finally emerged, her face was pale and her hands would not stop shaking. It is worse than we thought, she said. The senior officers gathered aboard the flagship to hear her report. Admiral Taiho sat at the head of the table, his face unreadable. Captain Yuna stood near the door, watching everyone with careful eyes. Lieutenant Jisoo sat with his hands folded, waiting. Hana activated a holographic display. It showed 847 symbols, each one representing a species. These are all the species the Concorde has exterminated since its founding, Hana said. 847 intelligent civilizations. Billions and billions of lives. All gone. We knew they were killers, Taiho said. This is not new information. No, Admiral. But this is. She changed the display. Now it showed biological diagrams, genetic sequences, medical procedures. The Concorde did not simply kill these species. They harvested them first. Each species had something unique, a biological advantage, a special ability. The Concorde extracted these traits before the extinctions. They used them to improve their own people. Improve how? Jisoo asked. The ruling class of the Concorde has been genetically modified for thousands of years. They live longer. They think faster. They resist disease. Every improvement came from a murdered species. The room was silent. Even Taiho looked disturbed. Humans were supposed to be number 848, Hana continued. The Concorde scientists identified something unique in human biology. Our ability to adapt. Our persistence. Our capacity to bond with other species and survive in any environment. They wanted to harvest these traits for themselves. But they failed, Una said. Our ancestors escaped. Yes, and the Concord decided that if they could not have our abilities, no one could. They chose extermination instead of capture. They burned Earth to make sure no human would ever threaten their dominance. Hannah turned off the display. Her voice was quiet but steady. The Concord did not attack us because we were dangerous. They attacked us because we were promising. They saw our potential and they feared it. They decided to kill an entire species to prevent a future they could not control. Admiral Taiho stood slowly. He walked to the window and looked out at Earth, floating blue and green against the black of space. Then we know what we must do, he said. The Concord must be destroyed. Not just their military, not just their government. All of it, every world, every station, every ship. We must burn them as they burned us. That would make us no better than them, Jisoo said. Tae-ho turned. His eyes were burning with a cold fire. I do not care about being better. I care about justice. I care about revenge. I care about making sure they can never do this to anyone again. There are innocents, Una said. Billions of innocent civilians who had nothing to do with these crimes. Children who do not even know what their ancestors did. Their ancestors should have thought of that before they committed genocide. So we answered death with death? Murder with murder? We become exactly what they feared we would become? Taiho slammed his hand on the table. The sound echoed through the room like a gunshot. They were right to fear us. That is the point. We spent 3,000 years hiding in the darkness, building our strength, waiting for this moment. We did not do that so we could forgive them. We did it so we could make them pay. And the wrath? Hannah asked quietly. The 6 billion people living on Earth right now? What happens to them? They can leave or they can die. Earth belongs to humans. It always has. Una felt something shift inside her. A line being crossed. A decision being made. No, she said. The word fell into the silence like a stone into still water. What did you say? Taiho asked. I said no. I will not follow this order. I will not participate in genocide. I will not become the monster they accused us of being. You do not have a choice, Captain. I am your commanding officer. Then I resign my command. Taiho stared at her. For a long moment, no one moved. No one breathed. You would abandon your own people? He asked. You would abandon our mission? Our purpose? Our purpose was to survive, Una said. Our purpose was to prove that humanity deserved to exist. If we do this, we prove the opposite. We prove that they were right to try to destroy us. I agree with Captain Una, Jisoo said, standing up. I will not serve a fleet that commits atrocities. One by one, other officers stood. Not all of them, but enough. Maybe a third of the people in the room. Tae-ho looked at them with something that might have been sadness. Or maybe it was just disappointment. So be it, he said. Those who wish to follow the captain may do so. Take your ships and go. The rest of us will continue the mission as planned. The fleet split that night. Admiral Taiho commanded what he called the Vengeance Fleet. 32 ships crewed by those who wanted blood. Those who had spent their whole lives dreaming of this moment. Those whose hatred had grown too large to contain. Captain Una commanded the Mercy Fleet. 18 ships crewed by those who believed in a different path. Those who thought humanity could be more than its worst impulses. Those who wanted justice but not murder. The two fleets separated and moved to opposite sides of Earth's orbit. They did not fire on each other, but they did not speak either. Far away, High Arbiter Veth watched the split happen through her spy satellites. She had placed them in the Sol system decades ago, just in case the old stories were true. Now they showed her something she had not expected. The humans were fighting among themselves. "This is our opportunity," she said to her advisors. "They are divided. They are weak. If we strike now, we can destroy both fleets before they reconcile." "We have no fleet left," one advisor said. "The humans destroyed everything we sent against them. Then we use other methods. Send the Shadow Hand." The advisors went pale. The Shadow Hand was the Concord's secret force. Assassins who could kill anyone, anywhere. They had not been used in centuries. They were considered too dangerous, too uncontrollable. But Veth was desperate. And desperate people do desperate things. "Find the leaders of both human factions," she ordered. "Kill them. Make it look like each side did it to the other. Let the humans destroy themselves." The assassins launched that same night. Neither Yuna nor Taiho knew they were coming. Neither knew that their greatest enemy was not each other, but the darkness creeping toward them through the void. The war between mercy and vengeance was about to become something far worse, and humanity's greatest test was still ahead. The assassins came in the dark. They moved through space in ships smaller than escape pods, invisible to every sensor humanity had developed. They slipped past the guard vessels. They bypassed the security systems. They reached the station where Admiral Taiho and Captain Yuna had agreed to meet for one final attempt at peace. Lieutenant Jisoo was the first to notice something was wrong. "Captain," he whispered, his hand moving to his weapon. "We are not alone." Yuna looked around the conference room. Admiral Taiho sat across from her, his face tired and his eyes heavy. They had been arguing for hours, trying to find a middle ground that might not exist. "What do you mean?" Yuna asked before Jisoo could answer. The lights went out. The attack lasted less than 30 seconds. Shadows moved through the darkness. Blades flashed in the emergency lighting. Yuna felt something burn across her arm. She heard Taiho shout in pain. She heard weapons firing blindly into the night. Then Jisoo's voice, calling out a warning. Then silence. When the lights came back on, the assassins were gone. 3 of them lay dead on the floor, killed by human defenders who had given their lives to stop them. 7 humans lay with them. Lieutenant Jisoo was among the dead. Yuna crawled to his body. He was still warm. His eyes were still open, looking at nothing. He had thrown himself between her and an assassin's blade. He had died protecting someone who was not sure they were worth protecting. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." Across the room, Admiral Taiho pulled himself up against a wall. Blood ran from a wound in his chest. It was deep, maybe fatal. "To Concord," he said, his voice weak. "They sent killers. They want us to destroy each other." Yuna looked at him through her tears. "Jisoo is dead. I know. I am sorry." He was 27 years old. He had never seen Earth with his own eyes. He died believing we could be better than this. Taiho closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something had changed. The cold fire that had burned in them for 60 years was gone. In its place was something older, wearier, sadder. "He whispered something to me," Taiho said, "before he died. Do you want to know what it was?" Yuna could not speak. She only nodded. He said, "Do not let them win twice." The words hung in the air between them. Do not let them win twice. The Concord had already destroyed humanity once. If the humans destroyed each other now, the Concord would win again. Jisoo had died trying to stop that. "Help me up," Taiho said. Yuna went to him. She put his arm around her shoulders and lifted him to his feet. They stood there for a moment, 2 wounded people holding each other in a room full of death. "I have been wrong," Taiho said. "For 60 years, I have dreamed of revenge. I thought it would fill the emptiness inside me. I thought it would honor our ancestors. But Jisoo was right. If we become what they feared, we prove them right. Then what do we do? Yuna asked. Something they will never expect. Something they cannot fight. 1 week later, every ship in both human fleets gathered above Earth. They broadcast a message across the entire galaxy. To every world and station and vessel in Concord space. This is Admiral Taiho of the United Human Fleet. We have discovered the truth about the Concord. We have found the vault beneath Earth's surface. We have evidence of 847 extinctions committed by your government. We are releasing this evidence to every species in your alliance. We could destroy you. We have the power. We have the right. But we choose a different path. We are calling for the trial of the 12. Any species may send representatives to speak. Any individual may present evidence. We will not act as executioners. We will act as judges. Let the galaxy decide what justice looks like. The response was chaos. On Concord worlds, civilians watched the evidence with horror. They saw the genetic harvesting. They saw the murder of innocent species. They saw what their leaders had done in their name. May refused to believe it at first, but the evidence was overwhelming. It could not be denied. Species that had been loyal to the Concord for millennia began to question that loyalty. Some withdrew from the alliance. Others demanded answers from their leaders. Others began to investigate their own history, wondering what crimes had been hidden from them. High Arbiter Veth tried to maintain control. She claimed the evidence was fake. She claimed the humans were manipulating everyone. But no one listened anymore. Her own people turned against her. Her own guards arrested her. The trial of the 12 lasted 3 months. Representatives from every species came to speak. Some defended the Concord. They said the extinctions were necessary for peace and stability. They said the humans were too dangerous to be allowed to exist, but more spoke against the Concord. They brought their own evidence, their own stories, their own memories of loved ones who had disappeared, of worlds that had been conquered, of cultures that had been erased. The verdict was unanimous. The Concord's government was guilty. Its leaders were criminals. Its history was built on murder. The guilty surrendered themselves. There was no war, no invasion, no genocide. The humans had won without firing a shot. Earth was returned to humanity. But Yuna kept her promise. The Vreth were not forced to leave. Instead, humans and Vreth agreed to share the world. It was difficult at first. There was fear and mistrust on both sides. But slowly, carefully, they learned to live together. 10 years passed. Captain Yuna, now Admiral Yuna, stood on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The sun was setting, painting the water gold and red. Behind her, the city of New Seoul rose into the sky, a mixture of human and Vreth architecture that should not have worked, but somehow did. A tall, small figure ran up the path toward her. A Vreth child, no more than 7 years old. Her scales shimmered in the evening light. "Aunt Yuna," the child called. "Come see. The ships are launching." Yuna smiled and let the child take her hand. They walked together to a viewpoint where they could see the spaceport in the valley below. A dozen ships were rising into the sky, human and Vreth and other species too. They were explorers, heading out to discover new worlds together. "Where are they going?" the child asked. "Everywhere," Yuna said. "Anywhere they want. The galaxy is open now. Will they find new friends?" "I hope so. That is why we explore. To find friends we have not met yet." The child thought about this. "My teacher says humans used to be scary. She says everyone was afraid of them. We were, once. But you are not scary. You are kind." Yuna looked at the ships disappearing into the darkening sky. She thought about Jesu, who had died believing in kindness. She thought about Taiho, who had learned it too late but learned it still. She thought about all the humans who had suffered for 3,000 years, holding on to hope in the darkness. We had a choice, she said. When we came back, everyone expected us to be monsters. They thought we would burn everything down. Maybe we had the right to. Maybe no one would have blamed us. But you did not. No, we did not. We chose to be better than what was done to us. We chose to be kind when we could have been cruel. And that scared people more than anything else we could have done. The child looked confused. Why would kindness be scary? Yuna knelt down so she could look the child in the eyes. Because if we could survive 3,000 years of darkness and still choose mercy, it meant we could survive anything. It meant nothing could break us. Not hate, not pain, not fear. That is power. Real power. The kind that lasts forever. Far across the galaxy, on 100 different worlds, a new story was being told. It was not the old story of the terrifying humans who burned everything they touched. It was a different story. A better story. It was the story of a species that came back from extinction. A species that could have had revenge but chose justice. A species that proved their enemies wrong by being better than anyone expected. We were a myth. A warning. A nightmare. But we came home, and we became something new. That is the human story now. That is what they tell their children in the darkness between stars. Not that we were monsters, but that we chose not to be. And that choice made all the difference.